Joining us now is John Lott. He's the president of the Crime Prevention Research Center, and he joins us on the phone. Hello, John.
Great to talk to you. Thanks for having me on.
It's always our pleasure. All right, John. So tell me what you have discovered about concealed carriers in the United States and the role that they play in keeping our streets safe.
So we looked at all the active shooting cases in the United States over the 10 years from 2014 to 2023. The FBI defines an active shooting case as somebody shooting at somebody else in a public place, not involving some other type of crime like a robbery or a gang fight over drug turf, anything from somebody being shot at and missed all the way up to a mass public shooting. And there are about 350 of these active shooting cases that occurred over that decade. And what you find is that if you look at places where people are allowed to carry, because they're not allowed to carry every place, and you're talking about law-abiding citizens, and if you're talking about a law-abiding citizen, you can't expect them to carry in places which it's illegal for them to carry.
Right.
They stopped 52% of the active shooting cases.
So I'm sorry, just to dwell on that point for a moment, in areas that are not gun-free zones where you're allowed to carry, concealed carry permit holders stop 52% of all active shootings?
That's right.
Wow.
And police, by contrast, stopped about 44% of the active shooting cases. So they're stopping them at a higher rate. But beyond that, it's just kind of issues about, we watch TV programs. We see the news coverage. Often the implication is when you watch these TV police shows, the concealed carry permit holder is accidentally shooting a bystander, or they get in the way of the police, or they have the gun taken away from them, or they get harmed in some way. And what is amazing is how infrequent those types of instances are. I could only find one case of these, of all the cases where a concealed carry permit holder stopped an active shooting where they accidentally shot and wounded a bystander. And the interesting thing is just to compare it to the rate that police do. Police, in fact, you have 4 cases. 2 of them, they accidentally shot other police officers, and 2 cases and killed them. And in 2 cases, they accidentally shot and killed civilians who were there. You look at other things about, did they get in the way of the police? There's not one case where something like that happened. There's one case where a concealed carry permit holder had their gun taken away from them. And there's 2 cases where civilians who were stopping the attack were shot and killed in the incident. By contrast, there's 27 cases where police officers were shot and killed when they were stopping these attacks.
Yeah.
Now, I think a lot of that is just the fact that police have a very difficult job. They're in uniform. They're readily identifiable to these attackers. And so, if they're present or near the scene, since the attacker there is going to know that they're the one person that for sure has a gun, it's not too surprising that they face much greater risk, not only in terms of being shot and killed, but also being shot and wounded than civilians who are using guns to protect themselves or others.
And look, you of course, you're data driven. You've looked through all these stories. You've compiled this data. But the reason I know you're telling the truth is, 1, your track record, but 2, that if there were incidents where law-abiding gun owners who carry concealed were responsible for some sort of innocent bystander's death, the left would be crowing about those stories. We would know the names of everyone involved. These stories would be featured on all of their newscasts as a further predicate to disarm Americans, and they don't have those kinds of stories to draw upon.
No, that's exactly right. But beyond it, nobody needs to take my word for it. We have all the cases on our website, as well as links to the underlying cases themselves, so people can go and check. Do they fit the FBI definition of an active shooting case? What happened? All the details are there so people can go and check in original sources
Yes.
whether or not that's accurate. But
So
I agree with you.
So the FBI lies about all of this. They don't reveal all of this data. They lie by omission. And it seems to me that given the frequency with which concealed carry permit holders stop active shootings, it would actually be, if the FBI's goal was public safety, it would be in their interest to support law-abiding gun owners who are out there, wouldn't it?
You would think. Look, there are two issues, and people like Kash Patel and Dan Bongino have a huge job ahead of them. One is, as we've talked about before in your program, there are lots of errors in the FBI data. In many ways, there's been a lack of transparency, even in things like the uniform crime reports that they put out. But there's this other issue that you're talking about, and that is by omission. What data do they put together there? So by deciding what data to publish, they affect the debate here. They may have data on active shooting cases, but they don't break it down in the same way. They don't look at the types of, instances that we've just been talking about. Do they actually shoot a bystander? Are they killed in the process? Do they get in the way of the police? Those seem like important questions out there, and yet the FBI data, those are not the types of things that they even look at.
Okay. Now, separately, you've got a piece today in the Washington Times about police officers and their support for armed Americans. What did the data show there?
Police are extremely supportive of private ownership of guns, and in particular, carrying concealed. Police, if you look at surveys of police, and there's some large surveys, the Police One, which is the largest private organization of police in the country, they have about 450,000 members there. You compare it to the fact that there are about 700,000 police out there. If you ask them, what is the role of private gun ownership in reducing crime? About 76% of police think that it's either extremely or very important in terms of reducing crime. Police know that they're extremely important. My own research says that police are the single most important factor for reducing crime. But the police themselves understand that they virtually always arrive on the crime scene after the crime's occurred. And they realize in their own lives how important being able to have a gun is.
Yes.
And they understand that for civilians, too.
They have practical experience with guns. They understand and respect the implement. And they're happy that there are people out there who also know how to do it in a civilian capacity, own those guns, and use them wisely.
Right, and they see firsthand what happens when civilians use guns to protect themselves and others.
So, in addition to that, there's the issue of national reciprocity. Not every state has the same laws when it comes to guns. And in fact, it's caused some real trouble for some people who might not understand that the state that they're traveling through is about to destroy your life for merely traveling through it with a gun, which has definitely happened in some very awful, high-profile cases. What's the state of national reciprocity right now in terms of fixing this so that Americans are respected no matter where they travel within our country while exercising their Second Amendment right?
Well, you can go and get a permit for some states like Utah or Arizona or Florida, and that will allow you to go and carry in maybe about 36, 37 states, depending upon what state we're talking about there. The problem is that, as you're saying, you can't do it in all states. If you can, people have gotten in trouble in D.C., for example, going through. And while a bill that would make it so that a concealed carry permit would be recognized like a driver's license is right now. I mean, with a driver's license, some states allow you to turn on red and others don't. You have to know what the rules are as you go and you travel across the country. It would be the same type of process for concealed carry permit holders. Unfortunately, there are states that you can end up in jail, if you don't understand that you're banned from being able to go and carry in some places. And, you have people who are traveling, a woman who may be traveling alone across the country, being able to go and protect herself if her car breaks down.
Yeah.
Or if you're a truck driver and you have valuable cargo, you may be in situations where people try to go and steal the contents of your truck there. And so being able to go and protect yourself as you travel through Illinois or California or New York or other states might be extremely important for their safety. Not being able to do that may cause some people not to go and do the traveling that, others may not even think about. But the problem is getting it through the Senate. You have senators like the two Democrats from Virginia. Virginia allows reciprocity in the vast majority of the country for people to go and carry. There's no problems that people can point to in Virginia where permit holders in other states have done. There's no move even by Democrats in Virginia to go and stop that type of reciprocity that's there. But yet neither of the Democrats from neither Warner nor Kane would vote for national reciprocity. And you see the same thing with Democrats from other states. In fact, you have 10 Democrats who are in states where they recognize and have reciprocity with the vast majority of other states, no problems that have occurred, and yet they will vote against national reciprocity.
And you write today in the Washington Times that police chiefs and sheriffs all across the country support national reciprocity by wide margins. 86% of police chiefs and sheriffs want nationwide reciprocity, and over 90% of street police officers support concealed handgun laws. So it appears it's only the anti-liberty, anti-gun lobby in Washington that's really grinding all of this to a halt, because American citizens want it, the police want it. It's basically the corrupt factions within D.C. that don't.
Right. Well, one of the bizarre things is that after the Supreme Court decision in Bruin a couple of years ago, which kind of struck down the extremely restrictive so-called May issue concealed carry laws in the 7 states that had it, where you had to go and demonstrate some good reason for why you should be able to go and carry. So you're like New York and California and New Jersey. The TV media started having all these police shows where they would go and show bad things happen with permit holders. And it's just kind of this, you have a group of people, it's not just this. For something like 20 years, Democrats would filibuster letting police who had less 10 years experience be able to go and carry their guns off duty across state lines across the country. It was only after 9/11 that the filibuster finally broke and they allowed police to be able to do it. Here you have people with at least 10 years of experience who would for free be willing to go when they travel to go and protect others if they saw something happen. And yet, Democrats would claim that for public safety reasons, they couldn't let these police officers with at least 10 years of experience go and travel across the country with their guns, having essentially reciprocity for these police officers with all this experience. You have a similar type of debate that's occurring, unfortunately, with concealed carry permit holders, even though permit holders are extremely law-abiding. They have very few problems. You look at the rate that permit holders lose their permits for any firearms-related violation, and it's 1/12 the rate that police officers are convicted of firearms-related violations. Right. And that itself is extremely rare, like 1/20th the rate of the general population.
I love you because I just love the data. I just love you digging into it and giving us clear answers on what it says. Hey, as always, John Lott with the Crime Prevention Research Center. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for your always excellent work. Nice to talk to you.
Well, good luck as you move on to larger audience. It's been an honor to be on your show here on WMAL, and I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, John. Not the last time we're talking, that's for sure.